Want some?
No thanks.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, how's it slinking? What better time than this year to talk about the Metal Gear series? With interest in the Metal Gear franchise rising these past couple of years, thanks to both the resurgence of titles like Metal Gear Revengeance, not even a word by the way, and the announcement of the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, I'd be absolutely tripping not to take the time to talk about my favorite gaming franchise of all time. Or at least, my second favorite gaming franchise of all time. After the critically acclaimed Bloodborne universe of games, that is. Another reason that I made this video is... damn it, I thought I left this thing off. Sorry, give me a second. Hello? I thought I told you not to call me when I'm making videos. What do you want?
Do you shave your pussy?
More specifically, I'm here to talk to you about the second game in the franchise, appropriately named Metal Gear Solid II, Sons of Liberty.
What do you want?
You might have seen the title of this video, where I imply that I'm calling Metal Gear Solid 2 the greatest game of all time. And after seeing that, you might go, wait a second, isn't that a bit too presumptuous of you? And the answer is that you are completely correct, my dear viewer. That honor of greatest game of all time clearly goes to Honeypop. Now, going back to talking about the second greatest game of all time, Metal Gear Solid 2 is a stealth action, box hiding, jet fighting, skateboarding video game. Yes, all these genres are actually represented in the game. Or at least, they're represented in the Substance copy of the game, a game that Konami decided not to include in their $60 remaster released last year. Konami, can you just not mess something up for once? The game starts out as your standard Tom Clancy novel, with the president being kidnapped by terrorists, but the plot of the game starts turning upside down and the game's underlying meta-narrative starts rearing its head.
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
Wait a second, we're getting a bit too ahead of ourselves now. Let's rewind the clock back through time to 2001. It's November 13th, 2001, the same year that the Twin Towers got turned into the Zero Towers, and you, a Metal Gear fan, yuck, are excited to pick up your copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 that had just released. You bring the game back, chuck it in your PS2, and the game refuses to work. You take the disc out, clean it up, and try again. The game starts, and you're greeted with your hero, your idol, the guy you have on your body pillow. Solid Snake. Sneaking on board a tanker, you figure out the controls, take a look around at the graphical leap Metal Gear Solid took this past year, powered by the PS2. You take out a couple of guards, Google out a poster, shoot a bunch of pots and bottles, assault a woman, and you're generally having a good time. The big finale of the opening chapter comes up faster than you can realize, and suddenly the tanker explodes, and Snake just dies. The end. But it isn't the end. The game opens up with another intro. Ooh, 2 intros. Daring today, aren't we? Explaining how the president, as he was visiting an offshore oil clinic facility known as the Big Shell, was kidnapped along with a dozen other hostages by a group of terrorists known as Dead Cell, who are led by someone calling themselves Solid Snake. Jeez, what a poser. And their demands? $30 billion in cash. And 1 cent. Our Snake has been sent in to rescue the president. You can see that Snake had some work done since last you saw him. He looks and sounds, different. Guess that tanker was transporting liquid estrogen or something. Anyways, Snake takes an elevator to the surface and is about to take off his mask. And... wait.
Yo, who the fuck is this nigga?
This right here, dear viewers, is Raiden. Back when the game was out, his inclusion was a big point of contention for the fan base. All throughout the marketing campaign for the game, Snake was featured front, right, left, and center.
Egg McMuffin sandwich.
But as soon as the players reach this part of the game, they're forced to control this baby-faced newcomer for the rest of the game. With emphasis on the word baby, because this guy looks like the physical reincarnation of a skincare product. Despite what you could call misleading marketing, which, back in 2001 wasn't as common as now, the inclusion of Raiden was not something that the game's creators did to mess with the players.
How beautiful.
But it's a deliberate choice that lines up with the core themes of the story. Unlike how some other games use the subversion trope by, say, killing the main character, The Last of Us 2, and completely annihilating any goodwill that they had built up with the fans of the series, Metal Gear Solid 2 subverts expectations in a way that enhances both the game itself and what came before it.
What I hate more than anything else in the world is my own past. I didn't want you or anyone to know about it.
Raiden starts out as a blank slate, a reflection of the player, if you will. Despite him having an actual name, existing relationships, and a voice, his background is a mystery at the beginning of the game, even all the way to the game's end.
I do remember. It was right after I transferred to New York. There are all these tourists around you in front of the Federal Hall.
A group of middle-aged Japanese ladies came up and asked me which building it was that King Kong was climbing in the movie. I said it was probably the Chrysler building. And then...
Raiden gets put up against similar obstacles that Snake had to go against in the first game. Raiden is also a big simp for Snake, and glazes him every chance that he gets.
Snake, you're a legend, and that's why I need to ask you this. Snake and his partner aren't terrorists.
Jack, why are you defending them?
Like, damn dude, stop the goddamn glazing. The game clearly wants to highlight Snake's legacy from the first game as a legendary feat that is talked about for years to come. The kind of story that Metal Gear Solid 2 tries to tell can only be told with a new character like Raiden, with how it's slowly revealed throughout the game that creating another Solid Snake, or more specifically, molding a person into someone else, was one of the goals of the game's antagonists after all.
Accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
The plot of Metal Gear Solid 2, on YouTube alone at least, is probably more documented than both Napoleon and the Bible put together. So, let's talk about the gameplay for a bit, shall we? I have to start by saying that this is one of the best stealth games of all time, probably only surpassed by its sequel. One of the aspects of the gameplay that still shocks me to this day has to be the AI. I have probably never seen AI as reactive as this in any other game. I could say something like the Arkham games. Right behind me! However, you spend most of the stealth in that game just swinging around gargoyles and avoiding enemy sight altogether. However, in Metal Gear Solid 2, you're forced to get down and dirty with the AI. If you get detected, the enemy guards will hunt you down, and unlike other modern stealth games, you don't have the option for verticality, so no blinking or grappling to high ledges. Whether it's lockers, under tables, or bathroom stalls, clear! Enemies will look for the player if they catch wind of you being in the area. But for 90% of the game, guards are just doing stuff like this. And this. Even though all the sequences where the player gets hunted by enemies is mostly scripted, like look at this video that documents all such sequences, the idea of being a solo agent behind enemy lines is still sold well enough. The overall level design is also worth a mention, with the Metroidvania design of the game having you running up and down the game's setting, the big shell, multiple times, engaging in all the 90s movie action scenarios that you can think of, like defusing bombs planted by a guy named Batman, who would give even the most notorious Bond villain a run for their money with how random he is.
You're nothing but a common criminal, and that's the only way people will ever remember you. How dare you! I'm an artist!
As well as disguising yourself as one of the guards and engaging in some limited social stuff. Sorry, no sitting on benches here or blending in with crowds, but the sequence is brief enough to still be interesting. You can't call a game a Metroidvania without an interesting set of villains. In addition to Fat Man, which I have mentioned earlier,
I like them 15, 14, 16. I like them real young.
other members of the Death Cell terrorist group will also hunt down Raiden. Members like Fortune, a total Amazon who's packing some serious heat down there, and who can't get hit by bullets for some reason. And Vamp, a Romanian man named for his superhuman abilities and his thirst for blood. Wait, never mind. He's only called Vamp because he likes men? Damn, he just like me. The way you encounter Raiden's raw gallery is also pretty interesting, with Fortune's encounter having you duck and hide for dear life, and Vamp's boss fight, having you fight him in this closed environment while he tosses knives at you, and generally just being an overly erotic nuisance. So, how do I conclude this video? At the end of the day, Metal Gear Solid 2 is bigger than the sum of its parts. The gameplay is fun, interactive, and creative, but it isn't what makes the game shine. The plot is deep, unpredictable, and engaging, but it alone doesn't make the game great. What makes the game memorable, and what made it a favorite for countless people, is the intersection of both plot and gameplay to create a complex meta-narrative. The main lessons that Metal Gear Solid 2 wants to teach us about morality and existence should be pretty clear to anyone who played the game that's over the age of like 16, but let me get sappy with you here for a bit and tell you what I personally got out of the game. It's a game that wants us to know that we now live in a digital age where we can experience all that's around us, whether it's good or bad. A digital age where we have unlimited access to art, literature, music, and film. And YouTube videos like this one, you should subscribe. Our responsibility is to carry on our traces of life, things that made us cry, things that made us smile, and pass it on to the future so they can know both our ups and downs, and what came between.
Gay!